All right, buckle up, because today,
We're diving
the
into
heart of Azeroth.
a region practically bursting
With lore,
the Arathi Highlands,
we're talking rolling hills,
ancient ruins.
and enough conflict to make even the most battle-hardened adventurer.
Think twice.
And you know
I
what?
was prepping for this.
Digging through all these
In-game descriptions,
wiki entries,
even some snippets from the novels.
and I stumbled on something that...
Blew my mind.
Do you ever hear folks call Arathi the birthplace of humanity?
It's a common misconception, actually.
Right.
Turns out,
That's totally wrong.
the Arathi Highlands were indeed home to the Arathorian Empire.
The first major human civilization,
Hence the name.
but the true cradle of humanity.
That's a mystery for another deep dive.
Think of it this way. Arathi is like the grand capital city humans built.
Not the humble birthplace of the species itself.
Okay.
I see the distinction.
So even though humans didn't originate in Arathi...
It's still central to their history.
Absolutely.
The Highlands are where human civilization in Azeroth truly took shape.
We need to look back to a king named Thoran to understand why.
Imagine scattered human tribes.
Constantly under threat.
No real unity.
Then comes Thoran.
This visionary leader who says
Enough is enough.
he unites these tribes
Establishes the Arathorian Empire.
and chooses the Highlands as its heart.
But this wasn't a random decision.
Thoradin was strategic.
Oh. From what I've seen in game,
The Highlands are strategically important.
you've got those choke points.
Those narrow passes that would make it tough for an enemy to advance.
Precisely.
Thoradin recognized the defensive advantages of the terrain,
The Highlands, with their rugged hills and narrow valleys,
provided a natural buffer against enemies.
especially the trolls who posed a constant threat to human settlements.
Okay.
So, geography played a part.
But you're saying Thoradin had a bigger vision.
He did.
Thoradin founded the capital city,
Strongly.
later known as Strum Guard.
As a symbol of human strength and resilience.
He envisioned a fortress city.
A beacon of civilization in a land constantly embroiled in conflict.
And he succeeded.
At least for a time.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
This guy Thoradin,
Laying the foundation for an entire civilization.
in a region that's now a war zone.
Speaking of civilization,
I read somewhere that Strum
even before it was Stromgarde.
was involved in some groundbreaking stuff with the High Elves.
Didn't expect that.
This is where things get incredibly interesting.
We're talking about the Troll Wars.
A period of intense conflict between humans and the Amani trolls.
High Elves
While powerful,
were wary of the growing troll threat
they saw in humans a potential ally.
and a chance to stem the tide of the Amani Empire.
Okay.
So the elves were basically looking for some backup.
In a way, yes.
But what's fascinating is the form this backup took
The elves offered to share their knowledge of arcane magic
with a select group of humans.
in exchange for Strom's military support.
Imagine that 100 humans.
Chosen to learn the ways of magic from the High Elves themselves.
And where did this historic exchange take place?
You guessed it, right there in the Arathi Highlands.
Wow.
Talk about a pivotal moment,
It's a defining moment.
not just for humans.
But for the very course of magic in Azeroth.
These 100 humans became the first human mages.
Their lineage shaping the course of human civilization.
And it all started with a desperate alliance forged in the heart of a war-torn region.
It makes you realize that even in the darkest of times.
The seeds of progress and cooperation can be sown in the most unexpected ways.
Okay.
I need a second to process all this.
We're talking about the origins of human civilization.
The birth of human magic.
And it all traces back to the Arathi Highlands.
This is way more than just a war zone.
But if it was this powerful empire,
What happened?
how did it all fall apart?
The decline of the Arathorian Empire is a story as old as time.
Let me guess.
Internal strife.
Power struggles as
Exactly.
the empire expanded.
It became increasingly difficult to maintain unity,
Different city-states emerged.
each with its own ambitions and resources,
Strom, while geographically significant,
began to lag behind,
it lacked the vast forests of Gilneas
which fueled their lumber industry,
or the strategic ports of Kultiris.
which allowed them to build a powerful navy,
So,
even though Strom was the capital.
it couldn't keep up.
What happened to all those noble families?
The ones who helped Thoradin build the empire.
They just packed up and left.
Many of them did.
Really?
They sought out new opportunities,
What?
new lands to tame.
New fortunes to build.
You can still see the echoes of those noble houses in other parts of Azeroth.
Yeah.
The Barov family, for instance,
Right.
who played a pivotal role in the events at Scholomance.
They trace their lineage back to Arathor.
Ah,
The point is,
Strom's lack of resources hit its prestige hard.
yeah, for sure.
It's a reminder that even the grandest empires can crumble if they don't adapt to a changing world.
Definitely.
And adapt Strom did.
Though not without a cost.
It was no longer the heart of a sprawling empire.
Right.
Instead, it became Strum Guard.
A kingdom forged in the fires of hardship and determined to stand on its own 2 feet.
Wow.
This shift from empire to kingdom.
Marks a crucial turning point in Arathi's history.
I bet.
It's not just a name change.
Right.
It's a reflection of the region's evolving identity.
But their struggles were far from over.
Oh, no.
Because then, bam.
The Second War explodes across Azeroth.
I can already guess this doesn't go well for Strum Guard.
But with the Horde rampaging all over the place,
You're right to be concerned.
the Second War was a brutal conflict.
And Strum Guard, true to its warrior spirit.
Fought on the front lines alongside the Alliance.
Oh, wow.
King Thoran Trollbane
A descendant of the legendary Thoran himself.
committed his forces wholeheartedly to the war effort.
Really?
They held the line against overwhelming odds.
Even sending troops north to deal with the treachery of the Eldrazi humans in the Alterac Mountains.
Wait.
The Eldrazi humans.
As in,
The same folks who formed the syndicate we've heard about.
the ones causing all sorts of trouble in the Highlands now.
The very same.
Oh, wow.
The Eldrazi betrayal during the Second War is a stain on their history.
A wound that festers to this day.
But for Strum Guard,
It was just another battle in a losing war.
despite their valiant efforts,
The Horde's eventual victory had dire consequences for the Arathi Highlands.
I'm guessing dire consequences means the region was left in ruins,
Essentially,
while the Alliance ultimately repelled the Horde.
Strum Guard was left vulnerable,
Oh,
weakened by years of war.
their resources depleted.
Their defenses shattered.
And waiting in the wings were opportunistic factions,
Jeez.
eager to capitalize on Strum Guard's weakness.
This is where those 3 factions we talked about earlier come in, right?
The Syndicate
The Boulder Fist Oaks.
and the Witherbark.
Trolls circling Strum Guard like vultures.
What sets them apart?
Each faction represents a unique threat to Strum Guard's claim on the Highlands.
The Syndicate
Driven by ambition and a thirst for power.
are masters of manipulation and subterfuge.
Right?
They operate in the shadows.
Utilizing a network of spies, assassins, and mercenaries to achieve their goals.
They sound like bad news.
What about the ogres?
Are they just interested in brute force?
Don't underestimate them.
The Boulderfist Ogres are a formidable force.
While they lack the tactical finesse of the Syndicate.
They make up for it with sheer size and strength.
Oh gosh.
Imagine them. Hulking brutes,
Wielding massive weapons.
capable of tearing down walls with their bare hands.
Wow.
They're driven by a primal hunger for territory and resources.
And they see the Arathi Highlands as their rightful domain.
Okay, so the Syndicate are the schemers.
And the ogres are the brawn.
What about the trolls?
They just want their land back, right?
The Witherbark trolls are fueled by a deep-seated resentment that stretches back generations.
Oh, really?
They see themselves as the rightful inheritors of the land.
And their hatred for those who displace them burns with ancient fury.
What makes them truly dangerous is their connection to the spirits and their mastery of voodoo magic.
Don't let their savagery fool you.
The trolls are a force to be reckoned with.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
3 powerful factions, all vying for a piece of Strum Guard's territory.
And in the middle of it all,
You've got Strum Guard keep itself.
the ultimate prize.
But if it's so important,
Why haven't any of these factions managed to hold on to it for long?
Strum Guard Keep is more than just a fortress.
It's a symbol.
It represents dominion over the Arathi Highlands.
A legacy striking back to the glory days of the Arathorian Empire.
Wow.
Controlling the keep grants a certain legitimacy,
Right.
a claim to the surrounding lands and the resources they hold.
But its true value lies in its symbolic weight.
It's like holding the keys to history itself.
So everyone wants it.
But no one can hold on to it.
Sounds about right for the Arathi Highlands.
But as if these factions weren't enough.
Strum Guard also has to deal with a figure from its own past,
Galen Trollbane.
a fallen prince.
Ah, Galen.
His story is a tragic one.
A tale of betrayal, loss, and the corrupting influence of power.
Oh, geez.
He began as a promising leader.
Determined to defend his kingdom against the encroaching darkness.
But fate, it seems, had other plans.
From what I gathered.
He gets betrayed and killed by the Forsaken.
Talk about a raw deal.
It's a grim chapter in Strum Guard's history.
Galen, tricked and manipulated,
Meets his end at the hands of the Forsaken.
who then raise him as an undead servant.
No way.
Imagine the horror.
To be betrayed by those you swore to protect.
Only to be resurrected as a mockery of your former self.
Okay, now that you mention it.
I vaguely remember something about the Forsaken being involved in the Highlands.
But who are they exactly?
The Forsaken are a fascinating and tragic faction. They're essentially undead humans, freed from the Lich King's control, but still grappling with their newfound existence. They're driven by a desire for vengeance against the living who fear and reject them, and a longing for a world that no longer has a place for them. Their presence in the Highlands is a testament to their resilience and their desperation.
So they kill Galen, raise him as an undead servant, and that's that.
Not quite. Here's where Galen's story takes another tragic turn. You see, even in undeath, he clings to fragments of his former life, his loyalty to Strum Guard. This internal struggle, this tug-of-war between his former self and his undead existence, is at the heart of his story.
He remembers who he was. Man, that's gotta be rough. So does he break free from the Forsaken's control?
He does. In a stunning turn of events, Galen betrays his new masters and attempts to reclaim Strum Guard for himself, this time as an undead king. It's a desperate gambit, fueled by a desire for redemption that's ultimately doomed to fail.
Wait, so he actually manages to retake Strum Guard Keep?
For a time, yes. But his victory is short-lived. The Ebon Blade, an elite order of Death Knights who dedicate themselves to mastering death magic and preventing another undead plague, grow increasingly wary of Galen's ambitions and the dark magic he wields. They confront him in Strum Guard Keep, and it's there that Galen meets his final end. It's a tragic end for a character caught between two worlds, forever haunted by his past and unable to escape the shadow of his own legacy.
Man, what a story. Betrayal, undeath, a tragic fall from grace. But it sounds like Galen's story is also closely tied to another key element of Strum Guard's legacy, Trollcaller.
Trollcaller. The Trollbane family heirloom, a sword as legendary as the Highlands themselves. Forged in a bygone era to combat the troll threat, it was passed down through generations of Strum Guard's rulers, a symbol of their strength, their resilience, and their connection to the land. But it's not just a symbol. Trollcaller is infused with a powerful enchantment, making it incredibly effective against trolls.
So it's like the ultimate troll-slaying weapon. No wonder everyone wants their hands on it.
Exactly, and its power is not to be underestimated. Throughout its history, Trollcaller has changed hands countless times, each wielder seeking to harness its power for their own ends. But its true power lies in the hands of a true heir of Strum Guard, someone worthy to wield its might.
Sounds like something straight out of legend. Okay, so we've got all this history, all these factions vying for power, but then the Cataclysm hits. I mean, I've seen the changes it brought to other zones in-game. Did the Cataclysm shake things up in Arathi?
You'd think a world-altering event like the Cataclysm would change everything.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, it merely exacerbated existing tensions. Sure, we see some changes. The dwarves carve a new passage to the hinterlands through the wetlands. The Forsaken solidify their hold on the southern regions of Hillsbrad. But in Arathi, the core struggles remain. The Syndicate, the Ogres, the Trolls, even the ghosts of Strum Guard's past, they're all still there, locked in a struggle for dominance.
So it's business as usual, just with more danger.
In a way, yes. But the Cataclysm also sets the stage for a glimmer of hope. The Fourth War, a conflict that engulfs all of Azeroth, brings a familiar face back to the forefront. Galen Trollbane, brother of Thoris and uncle to Galen.
Wait, another Trollbane. Okay, this family just can't catch a break.
Daneth's return is a pivotal moment for Strum Guard. He sees the fractured state of his ancestral home, the endless cycle of violence that has consumed the Highlands. He rallies the Alliance to reclaim Strum Guard, keep facing off against the Horde who had established a new base of power called Argarok in the northern reaches.
So it's Alliance versus Horde, once again with Strum Guard caught in the middle. Did Daneth succeed?
Against all odds, yes. The Alliance emerges victorious from the battle for Strum Guard. A hard-won victory against impossible odds, and Daneth, now the leader of a kingdom reborn, takes up the mantle of his ancestors, determined to lead Strum Guard into a new era of peace and prosperity.
Finally, a glimmer of hope for the Arathi Highlands. It seems like after centuries of conflict, there might finally be peace.
That, my friend, is the question that hangs over the Arathi Highlands like a shroud. Can this peace last? Can Galen Trollbane overcome the weight of history, mend the wounds of the past, and unite the fractured factions that have been at each other's throats for generations? Or is the cycle of violence too deeply ingrained, destined to repeat itself despite his best efforts?
It's a question for the ages, isn't it? I mean, we've covered centuries of history, countless battles, and enough betrayal to make your head spin. But even after all this, one thing's clear. The fate of the Arathi Highlands is never truly settled. Who knows what the future holds for this war-torn region? One thing's for sure, though, it's a place where history comes alive, where the echoes of past conflicts whisper on the wind, and where the fight for survival never truly ends.
It certainly makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. If you ask me, the Arathi Highlands, with all its history and bloodshed, is a stark reminder that even in a world of magic and wonder, the struggle for power, for identity, for a place to call home is a constant.
It's a struggle that resonates across Azeroth, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And maybe that's why the Arathi Highlands, despite its troubled past, uncertain future, continues to captivate us. It reflects something fundamental about the human experience, something that transcends even the boundaries of this world.
Well said.
And on that note, we'll leave you with a final thought. What do you think the future holds for the Arathi Highlands? Share your theories, your hopes, your predictions with us on our forums. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the rich tapestry of Azeroth.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
This time, we're heading into a region you probably think you know pretty well.
The Arathi Highlands.
But trust me, there's a ton of lore hidden beneath those familiar quest lines.
We're talking wars that changed the landscape, alliances made and broken.
And even some undead stuff to keep things interesting.
And to help us uncover it all, we have our expert lore master with us.
Always happy to dig into these fascinating corners of Azeroth.
So you've read the same sources I have on the Arathi Highlands.
What surprised you the most about its history?
Well, a lot of people remember the Arathi Highlands from the Third War.
But their story goes way back, even before Thrall and the Orcs.
For a long time, this region was like a melting pot of cultures.
Humans, dwarves, trolls, ogres.
All fighting for control.
And that created this web of alliances and rivalries that shaped the Highlands for centuries.
Okay, so let's talk about Thrall's journey.
I mean, those images of the orcs going through the Highlands.
Fighting ogres and trolls, it's a powerful image.
It definitely wasn't a walk in the park, was it?
Not at all. This was the Third War, a defining moment for Thrall and the Horde.
Imagine this young war chief
Still dealing with the whole demonic corruption thing.
leading his people through dangerous territory. Every step was a challenge.
It's like their own exodus.
But they didn't have a Moses guiding them.
Thrall had to figure it out himself, with threats everywhere.
Exactly, and that's what makes his leadership so impressive.
He had to gain their trust, unite the plans,
And convince them to embrace a new destiny.
all while dealing with the Arathi Highlands.
It really shows how important this region was for the Horde's identity.
Absolutely. The Arathi Highlands were like a test for the new Horde.
It's where they faced their past, proved themselves.
And came out stronger.
And speaking of resilience, we have to talk about Strum Guard.
Right in the middle of everything, always caught in the thick of it.
But they always stood their ground.
Strum Guard's tenacity is legendary. They were a wall against the old Horde in the Second War.
And even though their lands were ravaged, they never gave up.
There wasn't just stubbornness, right?
What made Strum Guard such a tough opponent?
Their unity, their strategic thinking.
They were led by Thoran Trollbane, known for their fighting skills and their defenses.
Strum Guard Keep, their capital, was an impenetrable fortress. They withstood siege after siege.
So strong leadership, a well-trained army, and impressive fortifications.
What else helped them endure? Especially during the plague.
Their sense of community, they refused to abandon their home.
Even when the scourge hit Lord Aaron, Strum Guard held on.
They knew they were fighting for survival, and that fueled their determination.
It reminds us that even in darkness, hope can exist.
That even small nations can achieve great things when they're united.
Exactly. Strum Guard's story shows the strength of humanity in the face of adversity.
Okay, so we have the orcs finding their way as a new horde.
And the humans of Strum Guard standing strong.
But then, the Cataclysm hits.
Deathwing throws his tantrum.
And the world changes forever.
How did the Arathi Highlands fare?
It's interesting, actually. The Arathi Highlands weren't hit as hard as other places during the Cataclysm.
Oh, there were tremors and shifts.
But it wasn't the same level of devastation as other regions.
It's like Deathwing forgot about the Highlands.
Or maybe he knew better than to mess with them after everything they'd been through.
Maybe. But even though the physical changes were minor, the Cataclysm's effects were still felt.
Politics shifted, new threats emerged, and the balance of power was thrown off.
So the drama continues, just in a different way.
Exactly. The Cataclysm didn't destroy the Arathi Highlands, but it did create new challenges.
For example, our sources mention some intriguing things happening with the Dark Iron Dwarves.
The Dark Irons.
Those guys are always up to something.
What were they doing?
It seems they used the chaos after the Cataclysm to build a secret tunnel.
It connects the Arathi Highlands to the hinterlands.
A secret tunnel.
That's really interesting.
Why go through all that effort?
The Dark Irons are known for being pragmatic and strategic.
I think this tunnel was a way for them to secure their interests in the region.
So the Cataclysm might not have devastated the Highlands physically.
But it certainly stirred things up.
Absolutely. It's like the pieces on the board were shuffled, setting the stage for new power struggles in the Arathi Highlands.
A secret tunnel, wow. Talk about intrigue. It really makes you wonder what else is going on behind the scenes in Azeroth. But speaking of hidden depths, our sources also talk about a pretty tragic and mysterious figure, Prince Galen Trollbane.
Yes, the fallen prince of Strum Guard. His story really shows the lasting impact of the Cataclysm and the conflicts in this region.
For those who might not remember all the details, can you give us some background on Galen? Who was he before the Scourge?
Galen Trollbane was next in line for Strum Guard's throne, a proud warrior. He fought bravely with his father, Thoran Trollbane, in the Second War.
Known for his loyalty to his kingdom and his people. But then, tragedy struck when the Scourge invaded Lordaeron. Galen, despite fighting hard, was killed and raised into undeath.
And that's where things get really interesting, right? Becoming one of the Forsaken couldn't have been easy, especially for someone so connected to their former life.
Yeah, Galen's story really reflects the whole undead experience. Imagine being torn between memories of who you were and what you've become. It's tough. For years he struggled with this, his humanity battling with his undeath.
And then he breaks free from Sylvanas. What happens next? He goes back to the Arathi Highlands, right?
Right. After escaping Sylvanas, Galen tried to find his own way, seeking some kind of redemption for what he did as a Forsaken. He returned to Strum Guard, hoping to reclaim his place and lead his people, even as undead.
So now we have Galen, a prince turned Forsaken, trying to reclaim his past. But the Arathi Highlands are already a tense place. How did his return change things?
Well, it was a complicated time. The Alliance, always suspicious of the Forsaken, saw Galen as a threat.
But the Horde, although understanding of his situation, couldn't risk upsetting their allies by openly supporting him.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place again.
Exactly. And sadly, Galen's story ends with the Gathering. This event, organized by Sylvanas, promised a reunion between the Forsaken and their living loved ones.
But it took a dark turn, ending in violence and driving a wedge between the Alliance and the Horde.
The Gathering. Even reading about it is heartbreaking. That hope for peace destroyed so brutally. It shows the deep wounds and distrust the Forsaken carry.
Absolutely. And then there's Cullia Menethil, the true heir to Lordaeron. Her presence added another layer of complexity.
Cullia Menethil. Her story alone deserves its own deep dive. But for today, how did she play into this already tense situation?
Like Galen, Cullia was caught between two worlds. The living and the dead, the Alliance and the Horde.
Her presence at the Gathering, while well-intentioned, was seen as a threat by Sylvanas, who saw her as competition for the Forsaken's loyalty.
So we have Galen seeking redemption, Cullia navigating this political minefield, and Sylvanas pulling strings in the background, all leading to the tragedy of the Gathering. Makes you wonder if peace is even possible in the Arathi Highlands.
It really highlights the deep wounds that still haven't healed in that land, but it also shows that hope, even for reconciliation, still exists.
And speaking of reconciliation, or lack thereof, let's move on to a time when that hope was truly tested. The battle for Azeroth. That's when things really exploded between the Alliance and the Horde, and the Arathi Highlands were right on the front lines again.
It makes sense that the conflict reignited in the Arathi Highlands. Its location, resources, and history made it a target for both sides.
Visually, what a contrast. The rebuilt Strum Guard keep, a symbol of the Alliance's strength, and then Argarok, the Horde's stronghold. Two different worlds colliding.
Argarok, with its harsh design, spikes, and dark banners, represented the Horde's ferocity in war.
It was a statement, a symbol of their intent to take control. The Alliance's base, although smaller, was built around Strum Guard Keep's ruins.
It showed their desire to rebuild what they lost, to honor their past.
It's like one of those classic battle paintings, you know?
You can practically hear the swords clashing and the ground shaking.
But this was more than just a fight, right?
There was a deeper meaning to this battle for the Arathi Highlands.
Definitely. This is about ideologies, a battle for the soul of the Highlands.
The Alliance wanted to reclaim what was taken from them, to honor their past.
The Horde wanted to establish their dominance, to secure their future.
And what about the strategies they used?
It sounds like both sides were really going at it.
Oh, absolutely. The Horde had the numbers and the siege weapons.
They were relentless in their assault on Strum Guard Keep.
Trying to repeat what happened in the past.
But the Alliance had some tricks up their sleeves, I bet.
You don't survive in the Arathi Highlands without being resourceful.
That's for sure. The Alliance, led by Galen Trollbane, used their tenacity and their knowledge of the land to their advantage.
Guerrilla tactics, ambushes.
Even a little dwarven ingenuity to even the odds.
Dwarven ingenuity. Huh, I gotta know more about that.
What did they come up with?
Let's just say their love of explosives in those tunnels beneath the Highlands came in handy.
They really disrupted the Horde's plans.
Yeah.
Brains over brawn, classic.
And in the end, it was the Alliance who won, right?
What tipped the scales in their favor?
Well, those dwarves certainly played their part.
But the real difference was the Alliance's determination. They were fighting for their home, their ancestors.
That kind of commitment, that refusal to give up, that's what won the day for the Alliance.
So the Alliance takes back Strum Guard, and the Horde has to regroup.
You'd think things would calm down after such a decisive victory.
But this is the Arathi Highlands we're talking about.
Right.
I doubt that's the end of it.
You're right about that. The war left its mark on the Highlands, both physically and in the minds of its people.
There's a sense of unease, of tension still lingering, even after the Alliance's victory.
Our sources mention refugees displaced by the fighting, whispers of resentment and blame. The fighting might be over, but the Highlands are still dealing with the fallout.
And then there's that mysterious cloaked figure traveling with the Horde refugees. Who were they?
A spy, a survivor, something else entirely.
It's a mystery that still has everyone guessing, even the experts.
Some think this cloaked figure might be from one of Azeroth's shadier organizations.
Maybe the Twilight's Hammer cult or even the Burning Legion.
It's like a loose end in the story, hinting at more to come. Makes you realize that even in a place as well known as the Arathi Highlands, there are still secrets to be uncovered.
Absolutely. The Arathi Highlands are always changing.
It's a microcosm of Azeroth itself, a place where history is constantly being written and rewritten.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Arathi Highlands, what's the key takeaway? What makes this seemingly familiar region so captivating?
I think the Arathi Highlands remind us that even in a world full of magic and incredible creatures, it's those stories of resilience and courage that truly stick with us.
A place where the past still has a hold, where the lines between good and evil are blurry, and where the fight for survival shapes everything.
It's a place where, even after so much turmoil, hope somehow finds a way. A place where even small choices can have a huge impact on the future.
Exactly. The Arathi Highlands show us that in Azeroth, every story, no matter how small, matters.
And as we've seen today, there's always something new to discover, some mystery to solve, some story waiting to be told, even in the most familiar places. So next time you're in the Arathi Highlands, take a moment to appreciate the history around you. The battles fought, the people who call it home, their enduring spirit. Until next time, may your journeys be filled with adventure, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of Azeroth.
Hey everyone! Ready to uncover the hidden gems of Arathi Highlands in World of Warcraft? Let's dive right in. Arathi Highlands is a zone steeped in rich lore and history. Nestled between Hillsbrad foothills and the wetlands, it's a battleground, a historical site and a treasure trove all rolled into one. But there's more to it than meets the eye. First up, let's talk about Strum Guard Keep. Once a mighty fortress, it's now a contested site with the Alliance and Horde vying for control. Explore the ruins and you might stumble upon hidden quests that reveal more about the ancient Arathi Empire. Now, if you're into PvP, the Arathi Basin is your playground. This battleground is all about strategy and teamwork. Capture those resources and dominate the map. But remember, communication is key. Speaking of history, Arathi Highlands is home to one of the oldest human kingdoms. The ancient stones scattered across the zone whisper tales of the past. Check out the Circle of Inner Binding and imagine the powerful rituals that once took place there. For those who love a good hunt, the zone has plenty of rare spawns. Keep an eye out for Foulbelly the Ogre or Geomancer Flint Dagger. Not only do they offer some sweet loot, but they're also a great challenge for solo adventurers. And hey, don't forget the scenic beauty of the place. Whether you're questing or just passing through, take a moment to appreciate the rolling hills, ancient ruins, and the majestic Vandal Span. It's a perfect backdrop for some epic screenshots. Finally, Let's talk about the Warfront. This is a large-scale PvE battleground that lets you experience the epic battle for control of Arathi Highlands. Build defenses, gather resources, and lead your faction to victory. It's an awesome way to experience the zone's lore while contributing to your faction's efforts. So there you have it. Arathi Highlands is more than just a leveling zone. It's a place full of secrets, history, and epic battles. Whether you're a lore buff, a PvP enthusiast, or just someone looking for adventure, this zone has something for everyone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more World of Warcraft content. See you in Azeroth.